Hello, Max Wright here, and I just finished watching a fantastic video. It's by one of my favorite YouTubers called Sargon of Akkad. The video is called Liberal Ideas Number 3, Individualism versus Collectivism. Now, Sargon is self-identified as being a liberal. He's an advocate of the welfare state, of government offered safety nets and things like that. But basically his whole YouTube channel is built around outing the regressive left or the authoritarian left, social justice warriors, etc. And it's a fantastic channel. I suggest you check it out. But I really like this video because he goes through and quite eloquently explains the differences between individualism and collectivism. And he applies it to the authoritarian left, the regressive social justice warriors. And it quite well explains how they are collectivist and the consequences of that. What happens when you start sacrificing individuals for the collective good. As a libertarian, this concept comes up a lot. I've always been under the impression that if I could get someone to sit down and understand the concepts of individualism versus collectivism, then the game is won. I mean, I've always thought, how can you go down that path and understand those concepts and not come out the other side a libertarian? But here I am, and Sargon, who I've had the pleasure of speaking to before, is a very logical man, an absolute gentleman in every way, and here he is, he's breaking that rule for me. So I found this video really, really interesting, and it left me with the question, I don't understand, how do you arrive at the place that you've arrived at, Sargon? It seems to me to be a pretty obvious logical inconsistency. So as I said, in the video, Sargon very eloquently explains how social justice warriors sacrifice the individual. They sacrifice individuals left and right, as a matter of fact, in order for the collective good, for the greater good, for the greater number is often the argument. Now, for the longest time, the weapons of choice for social justice warriors were ostracism, shouting people down, ganging up on people on Twitter, doxing, relatively benign levels of violence. But they're definitely increasingly becoming more and more violent, and I can see that for sure. But I want to compare that to the advocates of the welfare state. So every advocate of the welfare state is an advocate of sacrificing property rights, sacrificing the individual property rights of, let's say, rich people, just because the 1% is what they tend to generally argue, to sacrifice that for the greater good. And to achieve those means they're an advocate of using extreme violence. If you do not pay your taxes, they are absolutely comfortable in endorsing the idea of men with guns coming to your house, kidnapping you and throwing you in a cage. So my question for Sargon is, given you understand the concepts of individualism and collectivism so well, how does someone square that circle? How can you reconcile these two things? When you look at it through that lens, aren't liberals and advocates of the welfare state even more heinous than social justice warriors? They're both advocates of sacrificing the individual rights of some for the collective good, and advocates of the welfare state universally agree that we should do so through violence. So I'm wondering, Sargon, what am I missing here? I know you're a super logical guy. What am I missing? Do you not believe in property rights? I doubt that's the case, but that's certainly one possibility. Do you admit that, yes, you are willing to sacrifice the individual rights, the individual property rights of some for the collective good, but you're willing to do it in this instance because there's some really good justifiable reason? And it's not a principled position that you disagree with the social justice warriors on. It's actually just their ends are different to your ends. Or does me pointing this out make you think, I guess I'm just as guilty as the authoritarian left as being collectivist? By the way, I read an essay about 10 years ago now, probably a little bit longer, by a gentleman called G. Edward Griffin, a libertarian. This essay basically solidified my position as a libertarian. After reading it, I thought, you can't possibly read this and not be a libertarian. I thought it was that good. And so I'll put a link in the description. If you're interested in following this line of thought, feel free to refer to that. I think it's a brilliant essay. I think everybody should read it. So I'd love to hear from you, Sargon. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to get lots more videos from me, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.